I glanced down at my watch, 11:37 a.m. Then my head tilted upwards, where my eyes locked onto a landscape of an alien planet on my monitor. I stared. Large rock formations, like a bird's beak atop a thin neck, pierced the wind of which I could not feel. I stared. Nature's arches towered into the sky. Through them, buzzing, came a nimble spaceship, which I could not hear. I stared. In the middle of an orange field of Earth-like terrain sat a small outpost where a pillar of smoke originated for the preparation of food of which I could not taste. I stared. I looked down at my watch, 2:49 p.m. Looking out my window, I saw houses, one after another, colored blue, gray, beige, blue, gray, beige. I turned back, faced the monitor, and stared. A fantasy is the faculty or activity of imagining things, especially things that are impossible or improbable. Many find fantasy to be what they get when reality isn't good enough. For me, that fantasy is space travel. For Chris Roberts, that fantasy is building the perfect space simulator. But who is Chris Roberts? Chris Roberts was a developer at Origin Systems when he began building his reputation with his work on Wing Commander, which was published in 1990. And by 1995, he was considered one of the most important people in the video games industry thanks to his work on the franchise. In 1996, he left the company to found Digital Anvil, which released its first game in 2000 called Starlancer. But a year earlier, in 1999, Digital Anvil announced that they would work on a game called Freelancer. Freelancer was Chris's most ambitious project yet, a large open universe space game where the player could be whoever they wanted. But as development on the game slowly progressed, Digital Anvil was acquired by Microsoft and Chris left, leaving Freelancer behind. The game eventually released in 2003, but was considered a disappointment due to the lack of features that were originally promised. 7 years later, Chris set out to make a game that would succeed where Freelancer failed, and that's where pre-production began on the next big project. And in 2011, he founded Cloud Imperium Games, where production started on a game that would be announced 1 year later as Star Citizen. Alongside the game's announcement, a Kickstarter campaign was launched. This campaign would act as the singular source of funding for Star Citizen's development until CIG ended the campaign and started selling spaceships. No, not real spaceships, virtual ones, that weren't even in the game yet. CIG was expecting players to pledge hundreds of dollars for pictures of spaceships that weren't even playable in a game that wasn't even released. And that's exactly what they did. The money CIG got from these ship sales grew and grew, making Star Citizen the second largest crowdfunded project in the world. As of December 10th, the Star Citizen project has raised over $650 million. Well, with that much money, where's the game? Originally, the game was given a 2014 release date. However, we have greatly exceeded this promise. As development continued, so did the scope of the game. Over time, the meaning of best space game changed and evolved, with games like No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous finding their ways into players' hands, and what would have been considered the best space game in 2010 was changing. And as these expectations grew, so did the scope of Star Citizen. However, it's not like we haven't gotten anything. Star Citizen is in its alpha stage of development, where players can pledge and play the game right now. Sure, it's quite buggy, but it is playable. And this all started in 2013 with the hangar module, where players could walk around in a large hangar and look at their ships, assuming they've been implemented into the game, of course. Here, CIG decided to release the game in different modules to allow players to experience parts of the game separately before they were all merged into the final product. Following the hangar module was the Arena Commander module. In this, you could actually fly the currently released spaceships and dogfight with AI or other players, but this module was nothing compared to what came next in December of 2015, Crusader. This module combines the previous two and gave players a space station to explore, ships to fly and walk around in, along with a gas giant that was dubbed Crusader. And the final module was released in 2016 named Star Marine. Star Marine was an FPS game where players could test out the gunplay mechanics in a setting reminiscent of other FPS games at the time, such as COD, Battlefield, or Battlefront. After Star Marine, CIG decided to focus on the Crusader module and expand it for future development, and renamed it to the Persistent Universe. The Persistent Universe is what players are playing in today. and over the years CIG has added new planets, moons, outposts, cities, stations, vehicles, and more to the game, and as of December 2023, the game has over 165 drivable or flyable vehicles, with more soon to come, as well as professions such as cargo trader, bounty hunter, mercenary, miner, and many more. All of this takes place in a single star system containing 4 planets, 12 moons, 24 space stations, asteroid belts, and many other planet-side locations like cities. Currently, there's also 94 more star systems, over 80 unreleased vehicles, and many more gameplay loops that all are waiting for their turn to enter the game. I've been following this game's development since 2021, and I've played it in its current alpha testing state relentlessly. And even in its glitchy, unfinished state, I love this game. It's the video game I've always dreamed of since I first watched Star Wars A New Hope when I was maybe 6 or 7. And for this reason, it is and will continue to be my favorite video game of all time.